Hi, welcome to Comptroller's Corner. I'm your host, Pat Curry, joined as always by Buffalo Comptroller Mark Schroeder. Our top story today, with the merger of two major banks set to change the banking landscape in Buffalo, Comptroller Schroeder has gone out to bid to find the best provider of banking services for the city. Now, Mark, you issued what's called the RFP, which stands for Request for Proposals.
Right.
This is to put it out there to bid, and so banks can give you a proposal, and you'll go through them and find out what the best proposal is for the city as far as who's going to provide the city's banking services.
Right, Patrick. That is the best way to do it. If you remember, when there was talk about the proposed merger of Key Bank and First Niagara, several elected officials in town did a political backlash to that acquisition. They had a lot to say about it. They were opposed to it. We felt in the city of Buffalo and in the Comptroller's office that we have a responsibility to the people, and the really best way to learn what banks can provide in this day and age, 2016, a lot of technology, is to do the RFP as you cited. And so 8 different major banks actually sent in a proposal. And we were very specific in terms of what we're looking for, the amount of money that would be in the depository, some of the services that we need. And so we are now towards the back end of the process. We reviewed all 8 proposals, and for clarification purposes, we are bringing in 4 major banks to kind of present, and for us, my management team, and also members of the Buffalo Sewer Authority. The Buffalo Sewer Authority is an authority, and however, I do have a standing in the authority. And
You're the chief fiscal officer
of the
Buffalo
Sewer Authority, and in their articles, I'm also listed, obviously, as the controller. So I obviously have a standing in it. But as a courtesy to the Buffalo Sewer Authority, because they're an authority, they can act a little bit different than a municipality. So we wanted to give them the advantage and their insight to sit with us. And I met with members of the Buffalo Sewer Authority last week. And over the course of the next 10 days, we will be meeting with the banks who have sent in the RFP. And over the next 2 weeks or so, we will make a decision to what bank will be helping the citizens of Buffalo and fulfilling our banking needs as a city.
One of the things you put in the RFP was that the bank had to have a local presence, preferably a branch presence in the city of Buffalo, in order to better serve the employees and the city and have a local connection that you feel strongly could be the best for taxpayers.
Yeah, that's a good point, because out of the 8 proposals, all were very, very good. But at the end of the day, Patrick, there are certain things that I'm looking for. There are 3 major things that I'm looking for. One, obviously, is the services that they provide. 2 would be a fee structure that is competitive and that is, something that we can live with. And then one of the most important factors is the hometown presence. So we have a lot of citizens and a lot of people who work in City Hall and some of our entities who really need to go to the branches, the bank branches. So we feel strongly that if we're going to be dealing with banks, it's a lot easier for the citizens if there are branches in the city of Buffalo. So that was one of the considerations that we gave.
One of the reasons you did this RFP is because of this merger and the changing of the banking landscape. But also, there was another acquisition when you first took over as controller. Now, First Niagara, which is the bank that got acquired by Key, at that time acquired HSBC's branches in the Buffalo area, and the city had been doing business with HSBC. That business had been shifted over to First Niagara, and there was a great deal of logistical issues in order to overcome with that, and with another merger on the horizon, you thought this would be a good time to go out to the market, see what's out there, so the city can decide for itself who its banking partners will be.
Yeah, interesting. It's a good point, Patrick. I've only been the comptroller for 4.5 years, and now this is the second major acquisition that is taking place within the city of Buffalo. And the first time, as you pointed out, we just sort of went along with the acquisition, and so therefore it was pretty arduous. But to First Niagara and the other partners, to their credit, they did a very, very good job. But this is different in that we wanted to really see what's out there now. And we were very specific. And I will tell you, it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference when you have professionals, certified public accountants, people who are technicians, people who really understand this business in the comptroller's office. It makes a big difference. Our debt management officer and deputy comptroller, Greg Szymanski, is a pro. He knows what he's doing. And then we have the great one, Ann Forti-Sciarrino, who is my first deputy, and Ann and Greg have worked very closely together. And I will tell you, Patrick, 4 or 5 days in a row, I would walk by their offices, and there they were sitting at their desk reading every single word of the proposal coming in from the 8 different banks. And then we had a discussion, and we narrowed it down from 8 to 4, and then the 4 banks will be coming in shortly, and we will give them the courtesy of conversation to listen to them, and we will also point out some things that are very, very important to us in general and specific to their bank. And so we're really looking forward to this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to being with you in the next couple of weeks to explain to the citizens what we did and who we selected.
One of the challenges of picking a bank is you have to make sure the bank can handle the city's money. The city has a great deal of money, and oftentimes, because of the collateral requirements put in by the government, the federal government, some banks can't actually take all the city's money. So one of the important things that you have to factor in is the bank's ability to be a depository for all the city's accounts.
Precisely. In fact, there was a bank who made a proposal, and quite frankly, they are probably the 5th largest bank in the United States of America, and they gave us a requirement that they would only allow $130 million in that depository, of which we do not want to agree to something like that, because that would handcuff us. So we need the ability of the banks to be able to hold the total amount that we have, so that we have the flexibility, and it's certainly more than $130 million. And so you're right, that disqualified the bank because they gave us that requirement. And these are certain things that when Ann Forti-Sciarrino and Greg Szymanski are sitting there reading every word of every proposal, these are certain things that come out. And that is why I'm grateful to have a very professional management team who understands that this is very serious business. And when we make this selection, we want to make sure it's the best selection for the citizens of Buffalo.
Another thing that factors into your decision making is the climate right now for interest rates. They're very low. The city won't be making that much money on the money that it has in a deposit for interest, but you're also going to be looking at who could provide the best rates, and also what the charges are for the services that are providing, so that the city isn't financially hurt by some of these fees, especially at a time when they're not making a lot of money from interest.
Yeah. So most of the money, there are times where it's going to be in a money market, and the yield is, quite frankly, pathetic. And so therefore, I'm going to be very interested in having a conversation with the banks over the next couple of weeks to see how they can be creative, because we internally have become creative, and we have brought to the bottom line $250,000 over the last 4 years. No thanks to the banks, thanks to management of the Comptroller's office who's figuring out ways to do things to bring in more revenue for the citizens. So we will be asking, this is the opportunity to ask the banks point blank, what are you going to do to help us bring in revenue? We need revenue in the city of Buffalo.
The financial solution you mentioned before is tax anticipation notes that you've been buying from other local governments, for instance, the West Seneca School District. But they needed money to fix a budget shortfall and a revenue shortfall in order to pay their teachers. Normally they would go out to a bank who would charge them an interest rate on that loan. Instead, they came to the city of Buffalo. Normally we would have that money in a bank earning less interest than we would give it to the West Seneca School District for. So they get a better rate than they'd get from a bank. We get a better rate than we would get from a bank. It cuts the bank out of the middleman. It's really an example of two governments working together to solve each other's fiscal needs.
Patrick, quite frankly, we are the only city in the state of New York who has done that. We've done it 6 times. We've brought in considerable amount of revenue to the city of Buffalo by doing it. We are the talk of the state. We were asked to do seminars across the state, and we participated with the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association. They wanted to highlight what we've done and to give other municipalities an opportunity to listen to what we did under the guidance of the New York State Comptroller. There are ways, there are creative ways, safe ways, no risk to the citizens to do things that are beneficial, and we are going to continue to do it as long as I'm the Comptroller of this city.
And you've had continuously updated the city's investment policy to take advantage of these new funding vehicles for the city in order to get more money on our investment and our rate of return. And so that's something you're always going to be doing, and everything passes muster with the Office of the State Comptroller, who oversees local governments and their financial regulations that govern it. So you're making sure everything, the city's basically going after every opportunity in a safe way in order to maximize the amount of return on our investment.
We wrote a new investment policy, of which we're very proud of. We're almost at the end of a new debt policy document that we will be unveiling over probably the next 60 days or so. So these are important things, and you're right, we need to take into account all of the different things that are happening around us worldwide and also in terms of the technology, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Now, Mark, since our last show, the mayor's recommended budget has been adopted with a few minor changes by the council. We got to take a brief break, but when you come back, I want to talk about your response to that budget and where you think it is and where the city's headed financially.
Great, Patrick. Thank you.
Stay tuned for more Comptroller's Corner after this message.
The Buffalo Employment and Training Center is your one-stop source. The center conveniently brings employment, training, and other workforce services to customers and employers in a one-stop environment. And the center is open and free to anyone seeking employment. If you are out of work, not happy with your current job, or are looking to improve your computer skills, the Buffalo Employment and Training Center is right for you. We are conveniently located in downtown Buffalo at 77 Goodell Street with plenty of free parking. So, what are you waiting for? Give us a call at 856-JOBS. That's 856-JOBS today.
Hi, welcome back to Comptroller's Corner. The Buffalo City Charter requires the Buffalo Comptroller to submit to the council a response to the mayor's budget. Now, in this response, Comptroller Schroeder has said, while the city seems to be making progress towards a more structurally balanced budget, there still needs to be more work done because the current budget relies on $10.6 million in reserves in order to fill the budget gap. Now, Mark, you've warned against the use of reserves pretty much every year you've been a comptroller.
5 times.
And the $10.6 million used this year is actually around the average of the past 5 years that has been used. But that average would have been more if certain one-time revenues hadn't come in. For example, in 2014-15 fiscal year, there was a budgeted amount of $27.5 million that ended up being zero because of certain collective bargaining agreements that were settled and freeing up some revenue to the city. Similar situation happened in 12-13 with $15.6 million budgeted and zero was needed in those years. But other years, as much as $18.6 in fund balance has been tapped. And this past year, it looks like there was a budget for 15. It looks like it'll be about 10 or 11 be used this year. But in the new budget, you're still concerned about the use of reserves, and it's something that you say that the rating agencies, Moody's, Fitch, and Standard & Poor's, are going to be watching because they've really told the city several times that the city must move towards a more structurally balanced budget where revenues meet expenditures without this use of reserves dipping into that to cover this budget gap.
Yeah, no question about it. And in our prior budget responses, probably 3 or 4 of them, we were very clear and specific with the language that the rating agencies used. And so that's very important to me because I have the responsibility to meet with the rating agencies and to talk with the rating agencies on a regular basis, especially when we're doing refundings and things of that nature or going to the bond market. So therefore, it's important that I'm consistent with what I've said to them on behalf of the Comptroller's office, but also on behalf of the policymakers, the mayor and the Buffalo Common Council. I've been very clear to them that it's important that we respect what the rating agencies are concerned about in terms of trends. Trends being negative, trends meaning using too much reserves. And as you pointed out, Patrick, there have been, the average right now is about $10 million, right, over the last 5 years that I've been the controller. But you also pointed out that there were some one-time things that happened within the budget that helped the city. I can remember going to the Buffalo News editorial board and telling them that in terms of what the city earmarked to use out of reserves, that average would be about $15.1 million per year over the last 7 or 8 years. That's way too much. You have to be very careful because as I've pointed out before, the mayor has asked me before, Comptroller, how do we get an upgrade, from the rating agencies? And I always say to the mayor, before I tell you what those components are, let me explain to you how we get downgraded. And one of the ways we get downgraded is by using too much reserves to balance the budget. We're in a situation right now where the city of Buffalo is doing better than most cities throughout the nation and throughout our state, and I'm glad for it, and I give everybody credit, the mayor, the council president, the council members, the administration. But at the end of the day, when your expenditures are more than what the revenues are coming in, danger. You have to do something about it. And so all I can do is warn, explain to the policy makers, the mayor and the council, be careful in using the savings to balance the budget. Households are citizens. They're really unable to do that. Who has savings of so much money? In fact, we had somebody come in recently to tell our employees and to their clients that right now savings are lower than ever with our families, especially in New York State. So we have to be more careful.
One of the things that you noticed in this was that revenues look to be pretty realistic, especially compared to previous years, which you've called into question some of the lines of revenue. With the exception of land sales, it seems to be that the city is not quite hitting the mark as for land sales. For instance, this current year that we're in, $8 million was budgeted for land sales. That hasn't come anywhere close to coming in. We've got about a little over $1 million. Yeah. And then this next fiscal year, which the budget just got adopted for, another $8 million was budgeted in land sales. But you're not seeing, you don't have the evidence there. And in fact, over the past 3 fiscal years, the city has budgeted to sell land for about $15.5 million, but it only realized $2.6 million in that span. So
Yeah.
it just seems to be one of those revenue items where it's just not quite hitting the mark year after year, and could result in us using more reserves than anticipated.
Yeah, and it's a gimmick, I think, that the administration uses. They like to use the same number over and over and over again, even though in terms of the actual, it's never even close. But these are types of things that happens. This is the reason why I have nine certified public accountants on staff within the Comptroller's office. We just don't wait, Patrick, as you know. We don't wait until the budget comes out or the proposed budget comes out. We have people examining each and every day, each and every week, each and every quarter, which one is called a gap report that we do each quarter, and we want to see how the city of Buffalo, how the administration is doing each and every quarter. We don't wait until the end. It's too late at the end. We have a lot of things to say. Usually after the first quarter, there's not too much to say because it's too early. By the time we get to the halfway point, we see certain trends that are maybe concerning to us. And then in a very respectful, professional way, we have that conversation with the finance people and or with the mayor if I need to. And that is really the best way to operate. We have a professional relationship between the Comptroller's office, and everybody knows that I am separately elected. I am not appointed by the mayor, nor am I appointed by the Common Council, which that is the way it happens in many municipalities across the state. That isn't the way it is in Buffalo. And so I am proud to be independent. I am proud to be the fiscal watchdog, and I am most proud of my staff and the professionalism that we bring to the seriousness of what we do each and every day for the citizens of Buffalo.
Now, while we're discussing revenues, you're actually conducting audits on revenues generated from the gross receipts tax and the cable franchise fees, just to make sure that the city's getting the maximum amount of revenue that it should be and it deserves under these agreements. And you're going out to audit it. You're auditing those areas right now.
Yeah, and Patrick, one of the things that we have found over the last 5 years when we do these types of audits is that we found out that we have been underpaid. Overcharged, underpaid. And so we have to then do something about it. And we've done it very successfully, especially on our utility audits. So much so that last week I had an opportunity to meet with the council president and the majority leader. And I made it very clear to them that I need their help. I need their help. They need to put in a resolution. They need to change the charter so that it actually states that every 5 years or so, whatever language they want, that it's mandatory for the comptroller to do an audit, especially on utility audits, because what we have found over the last 20 years is that we have been underpaid. And so that is really problematic. So we want to do something to solve that. And I have the commitment from the council president, Darius Pridgeon, and the majority leader, David Rivera, and also the pro tem, Christopher Scanlon, that they will look into that. So one of the things we will do is we will offer to write the technical part of the resolution so that they can pass it. And then this way, never again will we be underpaid by these utility companies, trying to take advantage of the citizens of Buffalo. We will not allow that ever going forward.
Now, you mentioned the utility audit. The city street line electricity audit recently yielded a $1 million cash refund to the city, and that refund is expected to grow once the field audit is completed.
And as you know, Patrick, because you have been very much involved in helping us forge this opportunity for the city of Buffalo, that claim was only one claim that brought in revenue of $1 million from National Grid. And so there are double-digit claims out there still that we're watching very, very closely.
Now, one last thing on the budget. You've often said that the sweep of funds from the parking into the general fund was not a great idea. In fact, now this year the city's going out to the market to build parking ramps and fix parking ramps. That money that has been swept in the general fund, that should have been used to build the parking ramps and to fix the parking ramps instead of incurring interest costs.
Yeah, so governors and mayors, they do this. They will sweep from one fund to the other. My feeling is that when they are doing that consistently, what they are doing is avoiding fixing the problems that are causing the administration to do the sweep. And so that is problematic for me, but it's what happens, Patrick. But the one point I do want to make on the budget is that the mayor during his budget presentation said that somebody suggested that he was the technology mayor. So I want to be really clear about this because I've had a very candid conversation with the mayor. Our timekeeper system in the city of Buffalo is archaic. I've said to the viewers before, it's Fred Flintstone-like. It's not automated. And so I believe the mayor and the council, they are incumbent to put in place an automated timekeeper system, keeping track of our employees going and coming. And so there is nothing in this budget that underwrites the automation of a major timekeeper program, which I'm very disappointed. The mayor knows I'm disappointed, and the council president and the council members know I'm disappointed. And so I'm hopeful that the disappointment that I've showed to them will result in a change over the next couple of months to underwrite a proper timekeeper system for the employees that work not only in City Hall, but in some of our other entities.
Now, this past weekend was very busy for you. Friday, you had the unveiling of the Tewksbury Lodge at the Buffalo Riverfest Park. Now, this is a project that you helped secure money for when you're in the New York State Assembly. Right. By Peg Overdorf's vision has become a reality on Ohio Street in the Old First Ward. Also, the Fenian invasion, which was after Civil War, Irish troops got together and launched out of Buffalo to invade Canada to try to convince Britain to free Ireland. Right. It didn't quite work that year, 50 years later, it was the Easter Rising, and then which led to this Ireland's independence. And then on Sunday, there was a commemoration of the 150th anniversary of the Fenian invasion on Saturday, and then on Sunday it was the Parade of Circles in your neighborhood in South Buffalo, which celebrates the Frederick Law Olmsted parkways and parks that we have in the city of Buffalo, and it was a really great community event. Yeah,
so I'm very fortunate. I was involved in all three. I spoke at the Tewksbury Lodge and talked about the great Peg Overdorf. The Fenians, that had a lot to do with Senator Tim Kennedy. He did very, very good work on this. He brought in two major Irish political figures to Buffalo, and also the Black Rock Historical Society. They are outstanding for the work that they did. And then South Buffalo Live, which also on that board is your mother, Mrs. Curry, and also Mrs. Ryan and Kathy Cunningham and the South Buffalo Alive organization, who do wonderful work, and they've been doing this parade for over a decade, I think, Patrick. And Patrick Curry is the voice of the parade, and he announces to all the different elected officials, including the mayor and the senator and a lot of other dignitaries throughout Buffalo who comes to that parade. So it's been a glorious spring. We're looking forward to a great summer, and so far, so good here in the city of Buffalo.
All right, Mark, that's all the time we got for this week's Comptroller's Corner. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Patrick.
And thanks for joining us at home. Make sure to check out the Comptroller's website at www.city-buffalo.com/comptroller. Check out the Facebook page, our Twitter handle, and our YouTube channel. For Mark Schroeder, this is Pat Curry, signing off.